Now entering Nerdist.com.
What's up, what's up, what's up?
What's up, guys?
Guys, like breakfast for dinner, it is Today We Learned on a Tuesday.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we learned on a Tuesday.
It happened. Well, guys, yesterday was a holiday. We celebrated. We hope you celebrated. Maybe you took in a nice movie. A great movie to have seen would have been Selma. Would have been apropos for the day.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, watch the Lego movie on HBO Go.
I celebrated by eating Carl's Jr.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
It's the wrong Junior.
It's a junior.
It's the wrong Junior.
I watched some Ken Griffey Jr. I watched Cal Ripken Jr. Ate Carl's Jr. I just had, I celebrated all juniors.
Yes. Cuba Gooding
Jr.
And I think that's all of them. That's all the juniors there ever were.
All the juniors.
Yeah. But guys, we've got a great show for you today. We were both very excited when we realized the extent of our guest's credits.
Yeah.
On IMDb alone, I think he has like 168 or something.
This guy,
amazing.
This guy has been in the business for pretty much his entire life, almost. You know?
Since he was in high school.
Since he was in high school.
Decades now.
Decades of career-spanning, iconic movies, television.
The West Wing. He's on Hart of Dixie right now, yeah.
He was in My Three Sons. He's been on, Leave It to Beaver, Bonanza.
And most excitingly for us,
he was the original voice of Jonny Quest.
What?
Jonny
Ridiculous.
Quest, The Adventures of Jonny Quest, ladies and gentlemen, the cartoon Johnny. I mean, as you guys know, whatever. Maybe you don't.
You'll find out. You'll find out on the podcast.
Jonny Quest was awesome. Even the reboot, just the idea of Jonny Quest and the adventures his family went on.
Yeah,
it was all science
without
fiction.
Jonny Quest, we would not have the Venture Brothers.
No.
So know your roots.
Yes,
you're welcome.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Know your roots. Watch that show.
Yeah, just watch animation. Just watch cool stuff.
Yeah,
that's the point. But before you watch cool stuff,
listen to this
podcast.
Goddamn right, listen to this show. We love you guys for listening to this show.
Today's podcast is brought to you by bread. It's pre-toast.
It's This is a fun episode. This guy, let me tell you something quick too, is we love all of our guests. Our guests have always been fun, but this guy had something fun and cool to say about everything, and he went with everything.
So many amazing
cool stories and just anecdotes and just full of knowledge and trivia and a all-around great dude.
Yeah, so we hope to have him back again soon, but in the meantime, we have this.
Yeah, we'll have him on our side podcast called Today We Jonny Quest.
Yeah, Today We Quest.
Today We Quest.
Called Haji, Gear Up the Car.
You can download that at zimzimzalabim.com.
Or racebannon.blogspot.com.
Yes, or on dogpile.com/bandit.
Bandit, by the way, the only character who wasn't designed
by the original guy.
Anyway, guys.
It's obvious watching the show because he's way cartoonier than the others.
Classic Bandit.
Classic Bandit. All right, here's the deal. Here's the episode.
Yes. Today we learn number 72 with Tim Matheson.
Today we learn. Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
Hello and welcome to Today We Learned.
Welcome, guys. Welcome back.
Can't believe we made it through that 3-day weekend. It seemed like it was never going to end, but it ended. And now we're here.
And now we are here.
Yeah.
We are here, and boy, is this a fun... I mean, here's the deal. Every episode's a fun episode, but this is a fun episode. We'll get into why it's a little bit more of a fun episode for me, just because there's a slight... For those of you that remember and have listened... I share a little bit of a namesake with this guest to an extent, and I'll mention that when we get to it. But this is a great episode, Dan.
Yeah, I'm eager to hear this. I did not know about the shared.
It's a slight heritage that just blew my mind.
Yeah,
it has. Yeah,
separated at birth.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Well,
that voice that you're hearing is writer, director, actor Tim Matheson. You might know him from Animal House, from My Three Sons, Van Wilder,
Fletch,
West Wing,
Black
Hart of
Sheep.
Dixie, which you can watch right now. along
Drop
with past
Dead
guests.
Fred, My Three Sons,
Jonny Quest.
Leave It to
Hello.
Beaver Bonanza,
Yay.
The West Wing. Yeah, Jonny Quest, believe it or not, I was in a punk band a long time ago, and I had bleached blonde hair, and I went by Jonny Quest.
That's
that was
awesome.
my name. My name was Jonny Quest, and I was reading your
Nice.
Wikipedia, like I knew about you, and I
Nice.
knew, your. I've seen a lot of your stuff.
Thank you.
And then I'm reading, and I see voice of Jonny Quest. I'm like, no fucking way. I'm like, Jonny Quest. I'm like, and then that blew my mind. And then that just, then no joke. Literally for the next 45 minutes, I was looking because every now and then I'll put photos on Instagram of like, oh, Photoshop me and things like that. And I'm like, I took a picture of The Rock, and then I took a picture of Gary Oldman, and then I took a picture of me, and I put us on a cartoon of Jonny Quest. I'm like, hey, let's make a Jonny Quest movie with me. So that was finding out you were in Jonny Quest wasted 45 minutes of my life just trying to do superimposing photos.
Glad to be a part of that.
So were you casting The Rock as Ray Spannon?
Yes, I was.
I like that
perfect.
casting.
Wouldn't that be
That's great.
Yeah.
I can just see him in bleach blonde hair.
Exactly.
That's a cool look. We'll just shave his head.
Yeah.
Have that? Yeah, he starts off with the white, and
Yeah.
and he gets over it.
Well, Jonny Quest for me was great because I was like a kid actor, and I was not like a kid star or anything. I was just the third kid through the door on My Three Sons or one of those shows, any of those shows. And then Jonny Quest, I was like 15, 16, and it was a great opportunity. It took me into a part of the business that I didn't even know about,
Yeah.
the voiceovers and animation world. And it gave me a living for about 3 or 4 years while I made the transition from being a kid actor to a young adult actor. And then I was like playing, like in my early 20s, 19, 20. So it was a great time for me because I just wasn't working that much other than that. It was cool. And some of the best actors I've ever worked with are voice actors. Mel Blanc, who did Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, and all of those guys. He could play a scene with himself under two different characters, and you just go, I can't even do it with one voice without doing 2 takes. He's like amazing. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'm always blown away in particular by voiceover actors because it takes a special set of sort of emotional acrobatics to pull that off with just your voice because, at least on film, if it's live action, you can communicate a lot with a look. Otherwise, you have to rely on the animators, and then you have to supply everything else. So
it's so true. And you know what it was too for me, and because that was all before my time, the radio world. But a lot of these guys had come out of radio.
Oh.
That's where they got all their experience.
Yeah.
So it was a part of your arsenal as an actor to be able to do radio and to be able to act on mic.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to figure that out because I was very naturalistic as a kid actor and stuff, and I was very, I didn't push and I wasn't, I didn't mug and do all that stuff. And all of a sudden here you have to be larger than life, without being hammy, without being stupid. And so it was a fine line. But Joe Barbera was very helpful and patient.
That's awesome. And you've since gone on to do voice. I feel like I was reading every Batman cartoon there's been. I feel like you've done a voice.
I've done a bunch of those, and I did a season of Scooby-Doo, and it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Because you'll be with these guys, and the gals, and they'll do 2 and 3 different voices, and they'll do the dog, and it's like, and they'll just jump in with these sounds. And the hardest thing for me was just remembering, if you're doing different characters, the voice, the tone, who the character was verbally, because usually you just open your mouth and you speak. But here it's got to be unique and different, and especially if you do more than one, it's nuts.
Yeah, you got to keep them all separate and filed away.
Yes.
So on a show like that, would you guys all record together, or was it separate, coming one at a time?
The best way to do it is with everybody together, because then there's a certain... it's like a radio show or a performance, but nowadays I've seen them do, depending on people's schedules, and a lot of celebrities are doing these things, so they'll do them a lot very isolated and separate. But it's much more fun to do them together.
I bet, especially when I would love to see a live recording with the voices with everybody, just because. It's so, like, I'm an 8-year-old half the time in my brain, as we've established already. And that would just be the funnest thing, I think, to see everybody, and then to see people switch from different character voices just on the spot. the talent.
I used to
behind
go
it.
in and sit and watch them do the Flintstones, too.
Oh.
Because
Oh, my goodness.
The Flintstones and the Jetsons were being recorded at the same time, and I had to
Oh,
go
wow.
in 3 hours early because I was a kid,
Yeah.
and I had to go to school. So I had a teacher there, and I had to go to school for 3 hours that day. And
Oh,
we'd,
wow.
We'd record, so I'd always hang around and look at the cells the guys drawing, because the animators are right there,
Yeah.
you know. It was an amazing world to be in.
That's so cool.
Did they let you keep any of the stills or of the Johnny Quest stills or anything like that?
I actually have two, but it was the time nobody thought anything of keeping them. Nobody collected
Yeah.
them. Nobody did anything
Yeah.
with them. You know, Disney was selling them at Disneyland for $5, and nobody bought them. You know, I mean, they were called Courvoisier cells, and I collect now. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's like I have a Hanna-Barbera signed copy of a Jonny Quest cell and some different, you know, and Space Ghost cell that my character Jason had. And so it was a lot of fun, and but I've collected for years now, and I just love it.
Those always fascinated me as a kid. They still fascinate me now because it's such a lost art, you know, and everything's done on the computer now, and it's just
True.
You know, you can't. Printing up a screenshot of a cartoon isn't the same as having like the actual. Then you see like those layered cams that like
Oh, yeah.
Disney invented to do Snow White, to do all the like the 3-dimensional, like the every layer of the still. It was just, and then to be able to zoom in. Oh man.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful the way they used to do it. It's still good. I mean, the way they do it now on a computer is great, and it's probably, you know, in depth and more flexible. But to the way they do it, and I had a Lady in the Tramp, a drawing of Tramp with an actual background.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
With a painted background, which is hard to get, but it's just the amount of artistry that went into it, you know, and the artists that were at Disney at the time, especially, and Warner Brothers too.
That's awesome. Now, Tim, I have heard that you recently optioned the Iranian film "I Hate the Dawn."
Yes.
What do you now? Tell us about that. That
You've
that
been getting
seems
more
really
into
cool.
directing and producing.
Yeah,
it
tell me
seems.
about that.
I've been directing TV for the last, 10, 15 years. I directed the pilot for Covert Affairs, and you know, I did a lot of Burn Notices and a ton of shows. So I have, we finished with this season of Hart of Dixie, I was dragged to an Iranian film festival, and I was thinking, "Oh my God, you know, this is going to be painful." But when I got there, it was a movie about a little movie being made in Tehran, and it didn't necessarily have to be in Tehran. And as I got into the story more and more, it was really about this young assistant to a famous director on the set of a movie. And the assistant was going through this emotional crisis, and it was the crazies on the crew and his relationship with the director and the crazy actors, and just this variety assortment of nut job people like we all have in the movie business that helped him get through this tough part in his life and go on with his life at the end of the day. And it's just this charming film. So by the end of the night, we were laughing in the movie, and we were charmed by it, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I called my buddy who invited me to the film festival, and I see him I said, "Come on, I mean, I want to talk to Ali, the Kareem, the director," and he was still in town. So we sat down, and I said, "What do you think? I'd love to make an American version of this." So I'm in the process now. We have it entered into the Santa Barbara Film Festival. It's going to be showing in competition in the international division, and I'm getting a writer to convert, translate, and not only the dialogue but the situations into a more American version.
Okay.
And just, you know, think Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
Sort of,
Nice.
In that kind of ballpark. It's sort of that world.
Okay, really cool. That sounds really.
Well, it's
neat.
going to be fun. Yeah, it's going to be great fun.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Now, when is the Santa Barbara Film Festival?
We screen at the festival on the 28th, I think, the 28th and 9th. And the festival runs for 2 weeks.
Okay.
I'm also up there presenting the David Attenborough Award to the Cousteau family.
Oh wow!
You know, Jean-Michel, Jacques Cousteau's son, and Céline, his daughter, and Jean-Michel's daughter, and Fabien, his son. And the family business is documenting nature and mostly the ocean and what's happening in the ocean and man's effect on the ocean. And for their tremendous work in nature photography and documentaries, they're receiving this award as a family.
Oh yeah,
Oh, wow,
well,
that's
very
really
well
neat.
deserved. I'm always so blown away when you mentioned David Attenborough, the award, his namesake. especially seeing like how they make something like Planet Earth when you see these photographers who just have to lie still for so long.
A year.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, you're going to be hanging out here for a year, but you're going to get some great footage.
It's true.
Yeah.
And those guys they're just masters. They're geniuses, and they don't really get recognition. And the Attenborough Award is one of those things that calls attention to their work, and it also enlightens us, because I think in the world of nature photography, you can't care for something or want to help something unless you know about it and learn. And these people make it easy for us to learn and be empathetic about the state of our oceans and the state of the creatures in the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, seeing it brought to life on film is a horse of a different color compared to just reading like a sort of a lengthy journal article in like a scientific journal.
Absolutely.
I love the Earth.
Yeah, controversial.
I mean, in agreement. Yes. I mean, yeah. I concur with both of your statements.
Do you concur, Doctor? I should have concurred.
I should have concurred. Tim, as our listeners know, and as we mentioned, we like to start off each episode with the guest providing either a fun fact about themselves or something they learned recently. No rules or anything like that. So I guess if you have anything that comes to mind.
Random fun fact about me is I was born in Glendale, but grew up in Burbank and went to junior high school in Burbank, and I still work in Burbank. I had a paper route there. I mean, I am one of the few people in this country still grew up and work in my hometown.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers, where we do Hart of Dixie, is in my hometown, and I realized I did Bonanza there when I was a kid. I did other shows that I worked on, Cold Case, when I first started directing, and it was like all these sort of like chapters in my life were all in Burbank. And I used to sneak on to the Warner Brothers lot and to the Disney lot. You climb over the fence. In those days, you could do that. And because I love the movies, and I'm still in Burbank, So it just dawned on me at one point that so much of my life has happened right in Burbank, and it's a treat, and it's like, wow, who gets that lucky? That happened without being stuck in like Des Moines or something.
Exactly. That's Burbank's definitely growing on me. I mean, I live near Sony, near Culver City over there, so I'm complete different, which I'm from the Midwest, so I'll drive anywhere. Like I'm completely mobile. But I've been hanging out in Burbank in that north, the North Hollywood area more, and it's I'm starting to like it a lot more than I used to when I first moved out here.
Oh yeah, I'm a Valley guy. I mean, I grew up in the Valley, and it's I lived in Santa Barbara for about 18, 20 years when my kids were growing up, and I was married at the time, and but I've since relocated back to L.A. and I just find that the Valley side for me is just it's my youth. I mean, I had a paper route in Burbank, so I know all the side streets, back streets,
of course,
around, and I used to porch it here and over there, So, and it's so funny and unique, the perspective to see that little town. It's still a little town. It's got now we have a Costco, big deal.
Yeah. So is it weird seeing how it's changed over the years?
A bit. I mean, but it's not changed that much, that significantly. I mean, it's now they're condos instead of apartments, but the little houses and little homes on the little side streets over by the junior high and high school, they're about the same. And I drive by the high school. I think they built a new facade and a new bigger building there, but it's about the same.
Nice,
really.
The city of Burbank is named after David Burbank, a New Hampshire-born dentist and entrepreneur.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
I would have thought Luther Burbank. Right? Maybe his brother or something. I don't know.
Good old dentist.
Good old dentist.
He was that fifth dentist.
Right?
He was he was the dentist of the stars. David Burbank. So it's not even like Count Burbank.
But Burbank was like a small town. 1,000 miles away from Hollywood when I was growing up, because you'd be in Hollywood, but you come to down the street from me was the Pickwick Drive-In Theater.
Okay,
which was we could sneak in the exit and watch the movies, and or put somebody in the trunk and drive in and not have to pay for them too. But it was light years away from Hollywood, and so it was great to come back to this sort of small Midwestern town feel. The section of Burbank down by the L.A. River. They still have horses there. It's an equestrian. They actually have a pedestrian crossing button that is up about 10 feet off the ground. So, that
So if
when
you're
on
on
horseback, you can push that
That's
button
amazing.
at Riverside Drive. So it's just there's still those little small town things about Burbank which are kind of great.
Yeah, it's definitely a like when living in the city that is Los Angeles, the second biggest metropolitan area, city of the United States. Those things like that are more warming. Do you know what I mean? Like it's definitely it helps cut the big city lifestyle and the hoopla and the hustle and the bustle.
But Culver City is now. There's a city that's gone through a transition because when I started out acting, I'd go to what was now Sony, then MGM, and and the Culver Studios at that point was the Selznick Studios, or then it was Culver. Desilu.
It was then Hughes was Howard Hughes's for a minute there, right? Back in the day, or
could have been. I don't know if he had it, but I know RKO was at Gower was Desilu Gower, which is now part of Paramount. But so all these little places, have since become Sony and stuff. But Culver City was this dinky little town. It was mostly back lot, which is now that all been sold off and turned into condos and shopping centers and stuff. So that's a city which I love, Culver City, which was sort of like Burbank, but has grown. And its location is probably a little better than Burbank.
It's like it is close to LAX, which is a great thing.
Yeah,
but Burbank's got a nice little airport there too.
Yeah.
Here's a fact. If you can take the Burbank airport, take that over LAX every time.
That's true.
Oh, my goodness.
The last time I flew into town, I flew into Burbank, and it was it reminds me of like flying into the airports in mid-Michigan where it's like you're in and out in a matter of like
it's great because you walk out on the tarmac when you're boarding and deplaning. You feel like it feels like a throwback, but it's also you just get in and out so much faster. So there's a traveling pro tip for you.
But I think there must be some collusion going on because all of a sudden there used to be all these flights to Vegas and San Francisco and stuff. None now.
No.
You can't. You all got to go through LAX, and it's like somebody paid somebody off.
I'm sure.
Because Burbank is like it handles this place or that place, but it doesn't handle the spectrum that they used to.
It's got to be. It's like the old red car fiasco where like some major companies buying out and forcing people out of the
Flyola.
business. Yeah.
You got it.
I
think that's it.
Southwest is buying up all these airlines to put Vegas out of business.
Yeah.
Some bigger city that wants to be the next Vegas is buying up all these airlines to stop flying to Vegas.
Need Elon Musk to build that super high-speed train.
It's like a Chinatown for Vegas to push Vegas to get Vegas out.
Forget
of
it, Jake. It's Southwest.
So we mentioned Jonny Quest. Here's a little bit of kind of some fun trivia about Jonny Quest here. Originally, I didn't know this. It debuted on primetime. It was a primetime show.
Oh yeah, it was on. We did 26 episodes, I think, and it was a primetime show. Which at that time, there was the Flintstones and there was the Jetsons and there might have been a couple others, but those were primetime shows and they were big hits. And Jonny, we lasted one season, and I think it gained a lot of more success. Then we were canceled. Then we still did some albums and did some other ancillary things, but it got more successful actually after it was off the air.
Yeah,
from primetime.
I believe it. I mean, I know I grew up with it just on reruns. I'm 33, so I was born in '82, and I just remember it's. People say Saturday morning cartoons, and my brain immediately will go to like the old Hanna-Barbera blocks with like you got Snagglepuss, you got Jonny Quest, you have Space Ghost, you have all of those, and it's all those reruns that were just the blocks. It's like that's where I remember it. Then
that's why I've always been a huge fan of Cartoon Network because usually started early in the morning. Later on, they spun it off into another network that was dedicated to older cartoons, but they would have these blocks of more classic animation. And it was so cool to see, because all the cartoons I grew up with was great, but it was cool to see the ones that came before that and just like the level of storytelling and all that stuff. You have to appreciate animation's roots.
Yeah,
it's true. I mean, because Joe and Joe Barbera and Bill Hanna took they to make cartoons for TV. They needed to cut the budgets and all the time intensive labor that went into it. So they figured a way out to slim it down and be able to do it. And I think it was Rough and Ready and Huckleberry Hound and those shows that were on TV that were I grew up on them, and it was like, wow. I mean, the fact that it was cheaper TV animation was fine. Who cares? You know?
I mean, the content was the content was not only for kids, but it was there for adults as well. And when the content is there, you're not as focused on the quality almost.
No, it's true.
If you can have great content, quality can take a back seat easy.
Yeah, look at South Park.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is just great content. It's a unique style of animation, but it's not about the animation.
Yeah. No, it's a very crude style, and it's crazy to think how far even their style of animation has come. And that show's been on the air now almost 20 years, if not.
Almost.
Yeah.
It was started my sophomore year. In 96, 97. Trying to think.
Yeah, I think somewhere around there.
I was like 15, I think, when it came out.
Because my first introduction to like hipster cartoons were Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Oh yeah,
which was just, it was like, okay, there's something going on here.
Yeah.
This is not just for kids.
Yeah.
It's pretty hipster stuff, and it's like it's inside jokes and it's fun and it's crazy and and there were so many Peabody and Sherman and Peabody and Sherman and just all the different characters
and the Aesop's fables and and that's exactly that. Is that it was so it was kind of like Animaniacs in my childhood. It's written by all these clever like hipster adult writers, comedic writers, and they're just lacing it with innuendos or jokes, clever, like the Peabody and Mr. Sherman and the callbacks to history and jokes about
some very highbrow jokes that your average child's not going to write over their head.
A child's not going to get a George Washington joke, or whatever like that. But they'll put it in there, or even Cold War type jokes with Rocky and Bullwinkle, and there's
and Boris and Natasha.
Yeah,
Moose and Squirrel.
Yeah. The Jonny Quest, the animated show, was originally, I guess, supposed to be based around the radio character Jack Armstrong, the all-American boy. And then when Hanna-Barbera could not, or they ended up not obtaining the rights to the Jack Armstrong story, they had Doug Wildey is the artist who helped conceive it, rework the concept. And this is interesting. I always noticed this, and now it makes sense to me, is at the end credits of Jonny Quest, there was always clips of more African safari and types of hovercrafts and parts of where it didn't really match the tone or animation style of the show. And I'm like, oh man, it's so.
Where's that episode?
Where's that episode? And it's so iconic, and that is because that's from the pitch that they worked to pitch to ABC and all that.
And Doug Wildey was there for the first part of it, or for the pilot. I remember, and then once it went into production, he sort of went away. I'm not sure what the politics was behind that, or they couldn't afford him, or whatever. But it became a slightly different show, a little less dark, because it started out pretty dark.
Yeah, Well, they were, I guess parts of the inspiration were, like Dr. No and all of that type of, fantastical, it was one of the first shows to really, it was all, the core colors were blacks and shades and very grimy pulp action types comics.
Yeah.
And magazines. And
it was fun. It was so much fun. I couldn't believe this show was on the air and I was a part of it. And yet no one in my school knew I was doing that.
Really?
Nobody had a clue. It was like I sort of fell out of the school cliques and crowds that that I'd started to be in and whatever it was, and because I was off working probably half the time, so I just sort of disappeared. When I'd come back, it was like, oh yeah.
And it's were you sick or something? Where you been?
And it was like, oh, I'm doing this, So.
You cut so much class. You're awesome. So what was it? Was it weird being sort of that experience where you're off working and sort of not getting that traditional high school experience?
Yeah, because I was not cool, and I was very short in high school. I was 5'4", 5'5", and so I was not. I remember a high school. Very pretty young girl in high school, Janelle Penny, said, I would go out with you if you were 6 feet tall. And it was like, oh, geez, she was crushed me. I was 5'6", so it was I didn't grow until I got out of high school, until I got into college. But so, It was hard. It was hard on me because you all you want in high school is to be part of the group.
Of course.
Some group.
Yeah.
Any group. And I tried with the theater people, but that wasn't me. I didn't fit in with there. So I played tennis. I was on the tennis team, but I never fit in anywhere there. And then I even went to my 5-year reunion, my first 5-year reunion. And I didn't fit in there either. All of a sudden they were very nice to me then because, oh, geez, I'd seen you on TV and I'd been in this and that. So everybody was kissing my ass, but it was like, where were you when I needed you? Where were you when I was in the 11th grade and I want to get laid? What the hell?
Hey, what about my formative years?
Yeah, you crushed me.
Yeah.
Complete 180 here. Here's some a little bit of an interesting thing. I was listening to a podcast the other day that I'll mention. That I mention on occasion. It's called 99% Invisible, and they had an episode. It's like a learning type of show. It's always like things you oversight or you see and you take for granted, and they'll tell a little bit about a history about that. But you ever see those everybody makes fun of them now? Those like inflatable guys that like
outside like car dealerships or like mattress stores.
Brilliant.
Yeah, those first came to be in the 1996 Olympics.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
They debuted during the Atlanta 1996 Olympics, and they were created by a gentleman by the name of Peter Minshall and Doran Gazet. Now, Peter Minshall it was from Trinidad and Tobago, and he was known throughout his home and throughout the places abroad as a moss man, which is like an entertainment type of guy. The term is used in Trinidad for someone who creates artwork for carnival. So he would Peter would make artwork and things like that and attractions for carnivals and for street fairs and stuff like that. And I guess the Olympic committee took note of this guy, and they started. They wanted him to do something fun for the Olympics opening ceremony. And he started having some ideas, and he partnered up with Doran Gazet, who was a Los Angeles-based artist who dealt a lot with like inflatables and things like that. And they decided to Peter wanted to somehow construct something they kind of dance like you would to like reggae or Trinidadian music type of stuff, and they conceived of these dancing guys, which originally in the Olympics they had both legs and they were ginormous. And so they created those, and then over time they shrunk down to be these annoyances that you see on the sides of roads.
It's pretty cool, though. I had never thought about what did that come from.
It's one of those things.
They're brilliant. They really are.
Yeah, you just assume like, oh, I guess as long as they've had a way to inflate air, and they've had used cars to sell, they've had one of these.
But if you can't afford those, you get a guy with a spinning.
Oh my God! I met 2 years ago at San Diego Comic-Con. I was walking through the street and I saw this guy dressed as Green Lantern spinning a sign, doing some like really impressive moves, like spinning it up, making it do a bunch of flips, and he would do tricks on the ground and catch it seamlessly. And it turns out he was like the world champion for sign spinning. Like they have competitions, all like these people that do that, and he was telling me all about it. Yeah, like people come from all over the world, show off their moves, and like he had taken home the championship. And yet here he was at Comic-Con just like, Subway, eat fresh, right over here.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what his day rate is?
No, he's astounding.
He's a star. He's represented by CAA, actually.
Yeah, they gotta bust out the big guns when it comes to Comic-Con season.
What does that do to your rate when you win an award like that? Like supposedly Oscars and Emmys will give you a couple zeros or whatever. What is a sign-winning award?
I hope it helps. I really do hope it helps.
A couple zeros after the decimal.
That's hard. That is hard work.
It is.
I mean, those guys,
I can't do it.
Well, you get no applause.
Yeah.
You get no feedback. Cars, maybe somebody honks, maybe, Otherwise, you're just sitting there, just people going by going, oh, that poor schmuck.
Yeah. I gotta hand it to him. There's one guy on the Jiffy Lube by La Brea and Melrose who is just always. I've never seen him not smiling. He's always just like happy to be there, spinning away. Maybe he's listening to some really good music, but more power to him.
He's got the best Jiffy Lube deal in town.
Exactly.
And the pot doctor over by my place, they've got a guy that spins out there. He's always happy.
Oh, yeah. But possibly for different reasons.
They listen to so many audiobooks.
Oh, my God.
Like, if you're a sign spinner, you better be able to speak like 18 languages.
Jane Austen, the collected works.
I want you to be like Rain Man or something.
Yeah.
If you're a sign spinning,
take the time, improve yourself.
Speak like 5 languages and be able to tell me how to get from here to Machu Picchu with $100.
And you get more money in the summer than you do in the winter.
Yeah. Well, now there's a it's either on Vermont or La Brea where they got now there's these businesses that they have. It's just like a mannequin with it's the sign. But it's like a fake. It's like a shaky. It's like
a mannequin from a distance. It looks like a real person, just sort of like undulating with the sign. Then you get up close, and it's
just
a terrifying, lifeless mannequin.
Yeah, holding an arrow.
Yeah, there's one by my apartment, and the head has fallen off, so it's just this like creepy torso shaking a sign for you to come into Rite Aid.
Man!
But going back to these the dancing inflatable men, fly guys, or whatever they're called. This is interesting. They also make good scarecrows. A farmer named Gary Long, who helped develop something called Air Rangers, says that bird damage in his orchard of Honeycrisp apples went from 20,000 pounds a year to 0 once they put those in there.
And they don't eat much.
Yeah, no, they work for cheap. You
just a couple.
Just give them a sweet beat to dance to.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So thank you for your service to apples, dancing inflatable man.
So if you have a bird problem, just get an inflatable man.
An easy fix.
Who knew birds hate inflatable things as much as humans do?
Yeah.
That's funny. Here's a fun fact I learned today. Today, we're recording this on Martin Luther King Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Martin Luther King Jr., that's not his real name.
What?
Yeah.
What's his real name?
His real name is Michael King Jr.
Oh.
Yeah. The civil rights leader was born Michael King Jr. on January 15th, 1929. In 1934, however, his father, a pastor at Atlanta's Ebenezer Baptist Church, traveled to Germany and became so inspired by the Protestant Reformation leader Martin Luther, he ended up changing his name to Martin Luther King Sr. And then, obviously, he followed suit with his son.
See, I'd assumed that they were already fans or adherents of Martin Luther and his philosophy.
Yeah.
I just didn't realize that it happened after they'd already been Michael King and Michael King Jr. for 5 years in one case.
Yeah. Can you imagine what that does to a 5-year-old after you're calling them?
Yeah, you're Martin
for 5
now.
Years?
Okay.
But
Sure, Dad.
Yeah, but I wanted a transformer.
Yeah, I guess it's better doing it at 5 than age 13.
Yeah.
It's more of a marquee name.
Yeah, exactly.
Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
He's thinking ahead.
That's a name above the title.
Dad,
Exactly, yeah.
Dad is working. He's working the marquee.
Yeah.
Michael King below the line.
Below the line. You're Michael King's a PA.
Yeah.
You want to be in pictures, kid. Speaking of, here's a little bit of back to you here. So you're presenting an award for the Jacques Cousteau family,
yes,
who did a lot for the oceanic, films and
raising awareness, building.
You also are known as in the movie Animal House. You were known as Otter.
Yes.
The sea otter is a marine mammal native to coasts.
Nice segue.
Yeah.
Seamless.
Native to the coasts of the northern and eastern North Pacific Ocean. And here's a fun fact about sea otters. Sea otters have the densest fur of the animal kingdom.
Wow.
With about 1 million hairs per square inch.
Jeez.
The dense fur insulates the otter's body, helping to maintain its temperature in frigid waters. Otters lack the layer of blubber and fat that most mammals have that serve the purpose of keeping in heat.
We're lean.
And,
we're lean. Otters
yeah.
are lean. Yeah.
So otters must rely on their thick hair to stay warm. Now, this is interesting about their fur here. The fur consists of long, waterproof guard hairs and short underfur. The guard hairs keep the dense underfur layer dry. Then that way the cold water is thus kept
It's like
completely
a dry
away.
suit. It's,
Yeah.
it's really,
Exactly.
it is like a dry suit in scuba diving, which a lot of people are going to now. Because a wetsuit, you get in, you get wet, it gets cold, but then it warms up,
Yeah.
right, when you're in the water. And if you're in really cold water, it's stupid.
Yeah.
But if for comfort, you actually wear thin-insulated undergarments, and you put a dry suit on. You get in the water, and you're warm.
So are you a scuba diver? Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I started in the last 3 years.
Okay, let's talk about this because this kind of blows my mind. Because wetsuits always, I understood the mechanism of it, but in the end, you're still in cold water, so that always kind of puzzled me how they work. But I guess dry suits are completely
dry, but you still have to wear padding, or you have to wear something to keep you warm. But a wetsuit, you can get different densities and thicknesses to keep you warm in colder water, or if you're in warmer water, you can just wear like cutoffs, or But let's get down to basics. You can pee in a wetsuit. You can't pee in a dry suit.
Okay.
And so,
you can, but you shouldn't.
yeah, there's a lot of ancillary problems after the fact, and smell being just one of them.
Yeah.
So a wetsuit, I find, for all the discomfort, the initial discomfort when you get in the water, it's okay.
Yeah, that's the worst part is just taking it off after you've been diving, because then it's sort of like peeling off.
Yeah.
Like if you ever jumped into the water with your jeans or something, they're impossible to get off. It's sort of the same thing with a wetsuit.
We're going to hear the story of when you jumped in the water with your jeans?
Oh, no. No, I only wear wetsuits.
What's the most fascinating place you've gone scuba diving?
I think, I've been to Fiji.
Okay.
Fiji has, at least where I was diving at Wananabu, it was just little tiny, beautiful, but little tiny fish. And when I was in Belize, I must say there were larger fish, and there was a greater assortment, and we were out on an island, so we were closer to dive areas, and it was, there were stingrays and sharks and all sorts of big fish, groupers, and just huge. There's a grouper the size of a Volkswagen. It was like
holy moly,
giant fish. It was so, and in that way, it's always more impressive to see the big animals. So I think Belize was probably the most beautiful. I hear like Cozumel which is in the neighborhood. That's extremely beautiful too. So I'm just a beginner though, but diving in Southern California is terrible.
Is it?
Yeah,
I haven't really gone around here.
It's just it's sandy. There's not a lot of it's cold. It's like, really. I mean, you get spoiled when you dive in the South Pacific.
especially if you dive anywhere sort of more exotic and tropical. I guess you're going to get a wider variety of sea life and just bluer water.
That's it. I mean, do you dive?
I've been a couple times. I went a number of years ago when I was on vacation with my family in Hawaii. I got to go there, and that was incredible. Just the first time I went, got to see all sorts of sea life. The second time I went was slightly less amazing on the wildlife perspective. It was more just cool as an experience. I was at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama.
Wow.
I was covering the show Cosmos, so they sent a bunch of us to space camp. And part of that was doing the diving training, because that's the best way they can simulate what it's like to be weightless. So it was very interesting, like sort of trying to do some of the little activities and experiments that they had down there. Like they had this, it's crazy. You have this incredibly heavy ball, and like just trying to pass it around, but it's so much easier to move it when you're underwater because you can get more leverage. Or I'm clearly not equipped to dissect the engineering principles behind it. But even better was they had a basketball underneath there, and everyone just took turns dunking in slow motion. It was incredible.
That's what I need. Here's something. The term scuba was originally actually an acronym for self-contained underwater breathing apparatus, originally referred to United States Combat Frogman's oxygen rebreathers. It was just the acronym.
And I
for
believe,
the
if I'm not mistaken, the Jacques Cousteau invented it, or was one of the...
he helped revolutionize a lot of modern diving equipment.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, the first commercially successful scuba sets were the Aqualung twin hose open circuit units developed by Emile Gagnon and Jacques Cousteau, in which compressed air carried in back-mounted cylinders is inhaled through a demand regulator. It's a bunch of science.
And of course, the greatest, one of the greatest television shows ever that I grew up on, Mike Nelson's Sea Hunt.
Yeah.
Which nobody knows now, but I mean, it was Lloyd Bridges, as it was just one of those little cheap half-hour shows. Sort of he was sort of an underwater detective.
Oh, awesome!
And they would always show, and they would always shoot the close-up underwater stuff in a tank, and always the biggest sort of action thing in it was them fighting. He's fighting with the bad guy. A knife comes out. They're trying to stab, and then he would cut the air hose of the bad guy, and then the fight was over.
That's a pretty good finishing move.
Yeah.
I will say though, I just looked this up. The record for holding one's breath underwater is held by a French freediver named Stéphane Mifsud, and he lasted 11 minutes and 35 seconds.
These guys are nuts. I mean, it's like these freedivers are just, it's such an extreme sport. And if you've heard and read about it, one guy died recently. I mean, and a lot of them have grave damage to their...
Oh, of course, yeah.
I'm not even sure if it's heart attacks or what, but it's like they're down there that long, they actually pass out. They go through different...
well, I mean, it's let alone the pressure, the air pressure alone. It's even like you think about what airplanes do to you. You go up in there and you're what the pressure does to your body in there.
Yeah.
And you're breathing and you're not even holding in all this oxygen.
But at least they have systems to sort of regulate that.
Yeah.
Where if you're free diving, denying your body oxygen for that amount of time is going to
with
do some major damage.
I think so. Yeah.
So go scuba diving instead of free diving. Is the moral of this story.
Yeah, scuba diving. The first commercially closed circuit was in 1878.
Wow.
Jeez Louise.
But now, now they have different kinds of rebreathers. They have tech where you can have just a bottle of oxygen. You don't give off bubbles.
Yeah,
I think a lot of the SEALs are using that stuff in infiltration.
Techniques cover it up.
And
don't want loose bubbles blowing your cover.
But they also now add nitrox to your tank so that you get more oxygen. So you up what do we have? 20% oxygen, 78% nitrogen and 2% CO2. But I think so. What you can do is you can dial up the oxygen in your tank.
Interesting.
So that you don't get as tired and you have a little more energy and you don't respond to the cold as well. So it's actually they're playing with the chemistry of it all.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, especially for. Military application, you want those guys. You don't want to be underwater, start getting a little sleepy.
Yeah, nitrox refers to any gas mixture composed of nitrogen and oxygen. This includes normal air, which is approximately 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and 1% other gases. However, in scuba diving, nitrox is normally differentiated and handled differently from air. The most common use of nitrox mixtures containing higher than normal levels of oxygen is in scuba diving, where the reduced percentage of nitrogen is advantageous in reducing nitrogen uptake in the body's tissues.
But when you do that, you also have to calibrate your depth and how fast you come up and how long you can stay down. You can't stay down at depth as long when you increase the nitrogen, and decrease the nitrogen, increase the oxygen. So it alters your dive, your depth at your time at depth, and all those kinds of things. So you have to recalibrate it. So it's it's a little different, but it's not terribly dangerous.
Yeah. That's neat. I've the only time I've been scuba diving is in a swimming pool. And it was just testing it out.
Yeah, well, I had to do that at like the hotel pool in Hawaii before I was able to go out in the ocean. They're like, all right, just like me with my pasty white skin by myself in that pool.
I need to go. That's definitely something I want to experience just because the ocean fascinates me.
It's so
especially in like those those regions like Costa Rica or Cozumel and all that in Belize where you have the water. It's so secluded into the ocean. It's like pure ocean water almost, and you got the sunlight and you got that white sand reflect, and it's just the water is blue and you can see all these creatures, and it's
seeing the world at the most natural that I've ever seen.
Exactly.
It's totally unaffected. These critters don't care or they look at you a little bit maybe or not, but it's also so quiet. I mean, nobody can talk to you. You're not getting texts. You're not getting phone calls. You're not. You're just. It's almost meditative. In that sense, you're just really isolated, and you are forced to just be with yourself. A lot of people say to me, they say, "Oh, I don't scuba dive. No, I'm claustrophobic. I can't. I freak out." And there's a moment that when you're down at 30 or 40 feet, or something happens, or something unique happens, you go, but it's like you just sort of put that part of your mind away, and that's what the training is all about. It's just to get your mind acclimated to dealing with the process of being underwater and breathing with this tank and not being...
I know for a lot of people, the thing that throws them off at first is they become so aware of themselves breathing And once you start thinking about yourself breathing, it takes a while before you stop. You're like, oh yeah, this just happens on its own. Don't stress. But yeah, it is very interesting. It's really the only thing you hear. You hear the sound of yourself breathing, and then you see other people doing hand signals, and that's pretty much it.
And if you record it, I actually dive with a GoPro. So
nice.
If you record it,
wow.
it records the sound.
Yeah.
Too, so you hear these blah, 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 blah. You just hear bubbles, and you can hear if somebody says it makes a noise, but that's all you hear underwater. And it's usually a lot of very painfully slow footage that you throw out. But there's moments of stuff that are really kind of neat, I'll
tell you what, man, that ocean it puzzles me more that more people aren't like everybody. Like, look, I love space, and I'm a huge fan of SpaceX and Elon Musk and NASA and all that. But there was only like 3 people. I think we talked about it on a previous episode. 3 or 4 people that have been to the bottom of the Marianas Trench, and over a span of ever, and the 3 of those were in a span of like 18 years back in the day, and then the most recent was James Cameron,
sure.
And there was like a 30-year gap in between him and the others, and it's like, yo, it's on our planet, like, go do that, like, go down there, like, put a space station down there. And they're like, well, but the pressure and all that, and it's like, well, that's why you invent things that can do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Well, if one company has its way, we will be soon living underwater as well. A Japanese design firm had released renders for design for something called the Ocean Spiral, which is designed to be an underwater metropolis that would hopefully be inhabitable by humans by 2030.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've seen this before. It's pretty neat.
Looks so cool. It kind of looks like...
oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it kind of looks like the globe at Epcot Center almost, but underwater in like a giant underwater station. This company called the Shimizu Corporation, it'd be a $25 to $26 billion underwater, ecologically designed city called the Ocean Spiral with 5,000... It would house 5,000 people, and it would draw its energy from the seabed below, thousands of meters below. So they obviously we're running out of space on Earth. Space is not yet as tenable of a solution as a lot of people would like it to be, so they're trying to make use of untapped resources, the ocean floor. The research center would be about 10 miles long below the ocean surface. It looks very fascinating. It has it's all sort of built around this like center spiral where I imagine a lot of people would be housed, and there's like atriums and different stuff for people to walk around. Food facilities. So
crazy.
2030, we could all be living underwater.
Well, you probably can. If we destroy the air that we have to breathe, I think that would probably be a very good way to go about it. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I saw this really terrifying thing on Twitter recently. It was a towering skyscraper with a giant LED billboard of an Asian woman, and the text was, "This is not Blade Runner. This is Beijing today."
Oh my
And it
God.
looked almost exactly like that opening shot in Blade Runner where you're flying through futuristic Los Angeles and you see like the Japanese model posing on the billboard. It's scary stuff. I'm like, how is there this much smog? Because people give LA grief for being like the smog city, but then you see pictures of places like Beijing, these sort of mega cities that can't really sustain themselves, and it's just...
Well, they stay in. They just say, so today's stay in.
No, and that's the thing. Some days they issue an advisory like, hey, it's not healthy to go outside today. So,
it's like speaking of Blade Runner, there was that about 2 months ago off the 101 and the 110, that structure fire, that apartment fire that they were building, a huge inferno right on the side of the highway got burnt down. Mm-hmm. And there were people in Echo Park and Los Feliz posting photos from like their hill, seeing the fire. Then there's a shot of the beginning of Blade Runner of Los Angeles on fire. And it looks just like it.
Yeah, there's certain movies that I don't want, like Back to the Future 2. I'd like to see some of that stuff come to fruition. Blade Runner, not so much. Not the movie I'm trying to see happen.
We don't need replicants. I don't think so.
Pretty much. I don't want to see. I can't think of any Ridley Scott movie that I want to see come true. Quick aside about
Ridley Scott movies.
Ridley Scott movie. I mentioned earlier that they wanted to kill Han Solo in Empire Strikes Back. Another character that was originally slated to die was Ellen Ripley.
Yes.
Ridley Scott wanted to kill Ripley at the end of Alien. He was going to have a xenomorph, the alien, bite her head off, and then the alien would have mimicked her voice and recorded one last entry in the Nostromo's in their captain's log before the movie faded to black. But the producers thought that the ending was too dark for a movie that was already so bleak, so they made him change it so that she survived, and then made the alien die instead. But it's a good thing they did that, because then we got Aliens.
Yeah.
But also you have to have, it's, you know, you make an implicit promise to the audience at the beginning of a movie like that's a horror film, it's in space, and your hero or heroine has to win at the end, has to win, and in a heroic journey, and she was the heroine. I mean, it was one of the most unique films at that time, and even today, because it was the first one that had a woman at the center of it, and all the men around her were killed, and
or the villains,
or the villains,
Yeah.
And in the end, she faces off. You think it's the cat. You think the cat's gotten, but then it's gotten into the cat. But then it turns out that the alien is in the pod with her, and it's just brilliant. It's brilliant, and you know, it's so true. And it's how many incarnations all these films go through, and you have to make this mistake and that mistake. But it's easy to change in the structural and the drawing and the writing stage until you get on the set. And I've been on the set. In movies, not to compare it with Aliens, but I remember I was doing a TV movie and driving out to the set one day, and the DP says, "You know, you've got your climactic moment with your lead characters happening off stage." And they just talk about it in this scene. I thought, Jesus, that's terrible. We can't do that, you know. So we spent all day figuring out how to redo it and put it all into one scene and do it on camera and and you know, and it made the picture better. And so you just, I mean, that's the great thing about movies is you've got this team of people and coming together like that. And Ridley, I mean, I was actually just reading about the making of Alien, and I mean, he's brilliant.
Exactly.
He's one of those guys that can do it all. And you know, I mean, not to get controversial or anything, but you look at American Sniper and then you look at Black Hawk Down. And Black Hawk Down to me is 10 times the movie. And American Sniper, you know, because you got a director's point of view, you've got all this drama going on, and you know, an American Sniper is like, okay, it's rah-rah, this guy shoots people, okay, great. And it's hard going back home again. But, you know, Zero Dark 30 did that, and I mean, you know, so there have been a lot of films that have dealt with that. And,
and I agree to that, especially that point about American Sniper. I felt like Black Hawk Down had a point of view, whereas American Sniper had some ideas about what it wanted to be, but ultimately couldn't decide or commit to either one fully. And I think that sort of left it a little bit fractured.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't a unified director's approach. And Clint sort of, I mean, you look at the great films that he's directed, and certainly The Unforgiven, it was about a guy who was like a sniper, like a killer.
Yeah. But
he was conflicted, and he had quit doing it and was drawn back into it again to redeem himself and to avenge the death of his partners, you know, and to save his partners and save these women. So it was a reluctant hero, and with this guy, you know, I mean, he certainly was very heroic, and he did a lot of heroic things, but I think it's a little more complex story to tell than Clint chose.
Yeah, I think it glossed over some elements or oversimplified others. I would have liked to have seen focus more on the difficulties of readjusting to civilian life, or what it was like for him, like how you carry that baggage home, as opposed to just this sort of epic sniper duel. That, you know, it makes for an entertaining film, but you don't need to go full enemy at the gates.
Yeah, right. And you know, okay, she's a little kid, and he doesn't shoot the little kid. That makes him a good guy. I mean, you know, it was a little bit overly simplistic like that. I didn't think the script was the most solid of the season and of the year, but I think it's kind of, honestly, I think it's kind of a weak year.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few good ones. The Lego Movie got snubbed.
Yes.
Yeah,
what the hell?
That blew my mind. Like, that really blew my mind. What else? I mean, look, the movies that got nominated, I've seen them, and they're all good. But comparatively, I feel like if you took some of the best films of the last 20 years that have been nominated, I feel like this year lacks a little bit as far as just content and originality or
I
just
agree.
whatever.
They're also
you know what I
making
mean?
fewer movies. You know,
Yeah.
they're just making fewer and fewer movies.
Yeah.
They're
That's
more and
very
more
true.
Marvel movies, and you know,
Yeah,
and they're
there's
great.
no more. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have a Kramer versus Kramer anymore. You know, you don't have any of that. Where to me, it's
No.
a great movie.
I will say though, Whiplash.
Whiplash.
blew me away.
Hello.
My favorite film of the year.
Yeah, Whiplash, great
Yeah.
film.
Made that in 19
Yeah.
days. Like,
Really?
I mean, Whiplash is great. Birdman is great. I mean,
Birdman's
that
great.
just the editing
They're
on
out
it.
there. I mean, they're
Yeah.
just they're courageous, independent style, just courageous,
And those
wild movies.
and both of those movies, and even like Boyhood to an extent.
Yeah.
They're taking a risk with the way they're filmmaking it. You know, like in Birdman, they're like, we're gonna try and we're gonna make it appear as though it's one long shot. Which some people don't. Some people need that cut. Some
Yeah.
people need the shot. The shot list.
but you
it's
got to
just-
appreciate that they went for it.
Oh, dude, I love Birdman. Birdman
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
I mean, I'm a huge Michael Keaton fan.
He's
But
back, the best Batman ever.
dude, ugh.
I mean,
I
really.
could. Oh man.
Sorry, Christian. We know you're listening. Nothing personal. Love to you, an American
Christian,
Psycho.
if you'd like to plead your case, you can
Yeah.
come on this
I
show.
got to just say this though: when Michael Keaton said, "I'm Batman,"
Dude.
he was so angry, and there was such inner rage.
Don't kill me, man. Don't kill
when
me.
Christian did it, and I loved Fincher. I mean, I'm not Fincher, but
Nolan.
Nolan, thank you. When I loved his Dark Knights, but I didn't understand why his voice changed. Like when he put that cowl on, all of a sudden, why does he talk like that? I mean, with Michael,
Constricts the throat.
but with Michael Keaton, he just had
He just was
rage.
angry.
And
Yeah.
it was just it was vengeance.
Yeah.
And yet that was the conflict within it. That was brilliant.
Yeah, you felt that there was this sort of pathological need to defend the city.
Yeah,
Dude, he was-
absolutely.
I mean, I'll talk about Michael Keaton being Batman for an hour. Like my friends and I will just sit and quote in circles that movie because it's so good.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he's back. I mean, and he's been around for a few years, but I'm glad he's really actively
Yeah, but I mean,
taking starring roles now and really getting into things because he's
Yeah, like the last couple things I saw him in was Need for Speed and RoboCop, the reboot.
Yeah.
And granted, he was fine in both those movies. Like,
Yeah.
He did what he could with the material presented.
Yeah.
I thought in RoboCop the best scenes were when he was talking with Gary Oldman. I'm
Yes,
still
yeah.
like, how did you get both
Yeah.
Gary Oldman and Michael Keaton in this?
Need for Speed, I thought he was good too.
Yeah, it was-
you loved watching him on camera. doing
Exactly.
anything, but yeah, Birdman was like
Yeah.
now the material and the technique was up to his caliber.
Yeah. I like to think that Need for Speed is based on the fact that he actually runs an illegal racing league in his spare time from his lighthouse headquarters.
Yeah, but enough about Michael Keaton. I Hate the Dawn
Yes.
coming out, working on that. What else? This is as we wrap up. You can whatever you got to promote, whatever. Where can people find you on the internet?
Hart of Dixie
or what do you got?
should be coming
Heart of
back.
Dixie is back on Friday nights. We're in our 4th year, and Rachel Bilson stars with Jamie King and myself and Scott Porter
Yeah.
and Wilson Bethel, and so it's the group in Bluebell, this sort of fictitious, idyllic little southern town where everybody is at each other's throat all the time, but at the end of the day, they find a way to get along, and it's just sort of that kind. It's kind of like Mayberry with sex,
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
I like it.
Yes, and the I Hate the Dawn I'm working on, and so now I just find myself segueing more into producing and directing. I don't really want to talk about any of the things until they're more
Sure.
real, but I find that that's the most challenging and fulfilling thing for me. And acting in in anything that comes up that is challenging and emotionally rewarding.
Yeah.
So I'm at that point in my life now where it's I'm just exploring all possibilities, and it's great fun.
That's
Great
awesome.
fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, we're very excited to see I Hate
Yeah.
the Dawn and very excited to see what else
Thank you.
comes your way as a producer, director, actor, etc.
I Hate the Dawn, though. It will be at Santa Barbara Film Festival on the 29th and 30th, I believe, or 28th and 29th of January. So check it out. It's an early morning screening, 11:30, something like that.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
awesome. Check
And,
that out. Check that out. Follow
And
him on
where
Twitter.
can people find you online?
I'm at Tim_Matheson at Twitter, and I'm on Facebook, Tim Matheson, and so just stop on by. Yeah,
Great.
Great.
Awesome. And if you guys want to find the show on Twitter, we're on there. We are at TWL Podcast. You can find us on Facebook. Today We Learned with Razzle and Dan. You can also send us an email if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or have a fact you'd like us to read on the show. You can send that to todaywelearnedpodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to talk to us personally, you're in luck. You can do that. I'm on Twitter at OsteoFerocious.
And I am on Twitter at MyNameIsRazzle2. The number 2. My name is
very nice.
Razzle, the number 2.
Yes, except no substitutes.
You can find me on Reddit. My name is Razzle3. Follow us on all that. Follow Tim, everybody. We appreciate, you guys sticking around every week and tuning in and telling your friends about us. And we're climbing up the charts and, everything's, going well and on its way over here. And appreciate everybody for tuning in and giving us comments and continue to do so. If you haven't yet, that'd be awesome. And Tim, thank you again for joining us.
Great to be
here. And good luck with everything.
Thank you.
And as always,
what is dead may never die. Sorry, I just watched Game of Thrones Season 1.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Now leaving Nerdist.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Dan Casey here. Help Today We Learn stay free to download by completing this short, anonymous survey. It'll only take you about 5 minutes, and your answers will help match our show with advertisers that best fit the sensibilities of our podcast and its listeners, namely yourself. You don't want us to advertise weird stuff to you, or maybe you do. Let us know in the survey. And guys, everyone who completes the survey will be entered into an ongoing monthly raffle to win a $100 Amazon gift card. Think of all the cool stuff you could buy with that money. You could even buy Amazon Prime to make sure you get your other cool stuff faster. And guys, we promise not to share or sell your email address, and we will not send you an email unless you win. So, really, it's pretty painless. And if you want to help, please go to podsurvey.com/today. That's podsurvey.com/today to take our survey and get a chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card.